Hey guys, Steve and Eric here from Top Guns out of Terre Haute, Indiana. Eric, you know, a lot of times I will see a husband and a wife come in. Sometimes when the wife is a new shooter and just getting into her first firearm, the husband husband will frequently say, you need a revolver.
Right.
Or this is what she needs.
Right.
Sometimes it's not a bad choice.
Right.
But there are arguments both directions, and so we want to explore that today.
Yeah.
So give us your rundown as to why a revolver might or might not be a good choice for a first-time shooter, whether it's a guy or a girl.
Okay. On the might side, the one thing about the Revolver platform, it's extremely simple. If you pull the trigger on one of these and you don't get that bang you're expecting, you simply pull the trigger again. Right. It doesn't get any simpler than that. With a semi-automatic, on the other hand, you know, we're tap, rack, and roll. The whole technique issue comes into play there. With the Revolver, the downside to a revolver is this, Steve. Usually for a carry gun, you've got an extremely short barrel. This gun in particular, these smaller revolvers in general, they have pretty rudimentary sights on them. This gutter sight, we call it, which is milled into the top of the frame, this is your rear sight on this gun.
Right.
The other problem we see with revolvers for a first-time shooter, be it a man or a woman, is this. The stiffness and length of pull on this trigger.
Sure.
At the end of the day, shooting a handgun boils down to nothing more than holding your sights on target and manipulating your trigger without interrupting those sights.
Right.
That's it in a nutshell. So with this longer, stiffer trigger, we find that newer shooters have a problem mastering that trigger.
Okay. So, you know, the arguments I've made both ways is, and this is a long way to get to a short point, and that is I always compare a revolver to that of an automatic transmission. You have your gas pedal and your brake. Gas pedal, brake.
Right.
So you pull the trigger, it goes bang, you take your finger off the trigger. I compare a semi-auto more to a manual transmission vehicle. On a manual transmission vehicle, you've got a lot going on.
Right.
So there's a lot to take into consideration, but there's a reason race car drivers choose a manual transmission vehicle. It is a more proficient machine.
They take the time to learn how to drive that vehicle too.
That's exactly right. So if you are a person that's going to take the time to learn to overcome the learning curve of shooting a semi-auto, then male or female, then I would argue that a semi-auto is probably not, along with the fact that there's higher capacity, the fact that there's potentially less felt recoil because of that slide absorbing some of that. There's a lot of other things, other benefits there. But on top of that, the fact that it's just more proficient and all around is a good argument to go that direction if you're willing to overcome and learn and put the time behind learning how to shoot that firearm.
You just hit it right on the head, Steve. It's putting in the amount of time to learn your gun. Right. Whether it be a semi-automatic or a revolver, you need to learn how to shoot your particular firearm, be it a revolver or a semi-automatic.
Now, to your point, on a revolver, while it's a simpler machine to learn how to simply use, it is a harder machine to be proficient with because of that long, heavy trigger pull.
Guys, you have to understand, during a trigger pull with one of these revolvers, there's a lot going on. I'm going to go ahead and clear this, show you that the cylinder is empty. So when I start a trigger pull on this, a lot of things happen with this particular revolver. As you'll notice, the cylinder starts to rotate and the hammer starts to come back. When I reach a certain point with this, the cylinder's locked up, indexing the top round in line with the barrel. Also, the hammer is released and the gun fires. In order for all those functions to take place, what's needed is a long, stiff trigger pull on this particular gun. So that in itself is...
It's a lot of time to sit there and accidentally go left, right, up, or down.
It is. There's a lot of room for error with one of these.
Not to mention the barrel is very short, so it's harder to keep those sights aligned.
And don't get me wrong, Steve, I grew up on a revolver platform.
Right.
You know, before anybody else...
Before semi-autos were made.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, this is what we used. So still a very, very good gun for self-defense. However, I do think that there are better options out there if somebody's willing to put in the time.
Okay. All right, guys, post your thoughts down below. Let us know what you think. As always, we appreciate you watching. Please hit your share, like, subscribe buttons, all those things, and we will talk to you all soon. Take care.
See you guys.